And it is showtime. I guess I should run some sort of opening theme just to run an opening theme, I guess. Here we go. We'll do my standard me. Well, good evening, all. It is I, your pal, J.Ishiro Finney, author and alien in a human suit. And I thought I'd do this cast just specifically due to a conversation I had with Aloise not too long ago in the Discord. And since I don't think either Kat or I are in any condition to do a wordcraft tonight, I thought I'd drop in and do something a little more informal. As you all roll in, I will just kind of ramble here and we'll get the show started in a few minutes. In the meantime, should I also do the appropriate word from our sponsor? Because, shows don't come free. And, the great and brilliant romance writer, Richard Steele, has been kind enough to sponsor this episode. And so if you're really interested in just laughing your ass off, I mean, everyone's so serious right now. There's so much gloom and doom going on, so much black pills. If you want to read something that's just fucking funny, this book's for you. You can read it free on Kindle Unlimited if you're a member, and if you're not, it's only 99 cents. 99 cents for 108 pages of absurdist comedy. Yes, romance. It is mocking all of the genre romances in every possible way. The way I would put it is that this book showed that AI can't write romance for shit, but what it can do is unintentional Monty Python style utter nonsense humor or absurdist humor. Very, very good at unintentionally absurdist humor. So yeah, if you want to kick back, laugh, and not think about how shitty things are right now, read a romance story by an idiot. Links are in the description. And for those of you who haven't already, please, please, please leave a review. I am loving the reviews you guys have been posting for this. I had promised that Richard Steele would do a follow-up book to ROBOMANCER if it sold 50 copies. It has sold more than double that in the less than a week that it's been available. Yes, it hasn't even been out a week, and it's sold well past 100 copies. So I guess I have to let Richard write the follow-up anthology, I, Roboner. That's right. Richard will be writing another one, I, Roboner. And I've decided that these reviews you guys have been posting for ROBOMANCER, I'm still talking about it. I'm still pimping his book, so I might as well. That apparently the reviews are so damn hilarious that you guys have been posting that not only are they going to be reprinted in I, Roboner, but Richard's going to respond to each of you personally to say what he thinks about your review. So just something to think about. I mean, how often do you have an author write directly to you about your review of his book? I have to say, I have to thank Richard for that. Hey, is Aloise around? I would really like Aloise to be around for this episode. I think it would do her a world of good. Otherwise, how are you guys doing today? Anybody smoking crack lately? I mean, it's a way to pass time, or if you can't afford the crack, it's much easier just to get glue. Back in the '80s, the way you did it is you would spray in model glue into a brown paper bag and just huff it, because you had nothing better to do in the '80s other than huff glue and listen to new wave music. Yo, my insert racial slur applies to you. These are objects, natty gains of near-Earth objects, no chemicals, no substances, supplements, live astronomer. I smoked a gallon of weed. I'll be honest, I've never sniffed glue. I do remember being 10 years old and sniffing gasoline once and realizing that was a really stupid thing to do. My dad told me to mow the lawn, and I was filling up the lawnmower. And at age 10, I thought, "Oh," I just put my nose up to the can and took a whiff. Nearly fell over. Anime Acid Trip blames Mexico for making him. I can't look at a bunch of meat and not want to wrap that shit in a burrito. What do you mean? Burritos are awesome. Burritos, yeah, the thing is, tortillas wrapped around anything are good almost, Years and years and years ago, oh, God, 2000. In the year 2000, I spent a month in England, and I stayed with a friend who lives in northern England. And one night they decided they were going to be eating soft tacos. Yes, tacos. And so they got the microwave mix for taco mix, and they got the tortillas and the cheese. And then I had to inform them that you don't eat the tortilla raw. And so I showed them that you actually had to cook the tortilla on the stove burner. And they looked at me like I was insane till they tasted it. And they're like, oh, that's what we've been missing. Hey, you see that anime acid trip? Marco here thinks you taste delicious. Hey there, Alois. I remember we did that. We were chatting the other day on the Discord, and I thought, I would go in depth and talk a little more about it. I made some references to stuff that I couldn't get across. And, there's been so many black pills going around right now, and the news is looking for everything and anything to distract you from what's really going on, which is that our government sucks ass, that they're incompetent, their plans are falling apart, and they're scared of us, the people. So, they're going to the usual go-tos, and that's fear stories, anything they can do to distract us. And, because there's a green comet apparently whizzing by the Earth, there's been a fair amount of scare stories going on. Also, apparently, there's been stuff on television that is hyped up asteroid risk. So, I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of talk on the reality of asteroids. I mean, really, just to demystify the whole thing. Because one of the headlines I hate more than fucking anything is the headline, Giant Asteroid Threatens Earth. I mean, how many of you how many times have we seen that goddamn headline? Giant Asteroid Threatens Earth. And then we get some bullshit story. Well, let's talk about the reality. And to do that, I'm going to pull up, I'm going to put a link here for you as well. Anytime you hear about asteroids, okay, this is the place you should go. Jet Propulsion Laboratory, CNEOS, or Center for Near Earth Object Studies. I am now putting a link into the description. Now, there are multiple organizations around the world that are all sharing this data, and the compute I'll leave it there. It's all automated for the most part as they track the sky through radio telescopes as well as visual, and they all basically share data. You've got centers in Italy, England, Australia, New Zealand. I think there's one in Hawaii and one in Japan, and then a bunch of them here. And sadly, we lost the big telescope down in South America, unfortunately, which had been very, very useful in the sky search. But apparently, the fact that it had not been kept up, it just one day fell apart entirely, just collapsed in on itself. Thanks, tax dollars, for not being spent on what we need them for. By the way, did you know Donald Trump was the only, and I will repeat, only president to actually allocate money to the tracking of asteroids as well as allocate money to asteroid defense? Puerto Rico, thank you. I thought it was South America. Yes, Bush said he would do it. Clinton said he would do it. Obama said multiple times he'd do it. None of them ever did it. The only president who ever put any sizable amount of money to tracking asteroids as well as deflection strategies was Donald Trump, the supposed Antichrist. So anyway, anytime you see an asteroid story, the first thing is to understand what we're dealing with. I mean, where'd we go? Get a sense of, well, let's get some perspective on the matter. Now, if you go to the Sentry Earth Impact Monitoring system here at JPL, this is for scientists, okay? So it's a little hard to read. There are instructions if you want to learn all about it. But the first thing to show you is the top of the list. And at the top of the list, it's these are the ones that are the most risky. Now I'm going to zoom in so that all of you can see. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, as far as the next few hundred years, these are currently the only ones that we really give a damn about. Neil deGrasse Tyson likes to go on and on and on about an asteroid called Apophis. It is not a threat at all. It has been removed from the list. It's been removed from the list for a very long time and is not a threat to Earth for the next 100 years at least, okay? So let's talk about how to read these charts, okay? Let's go over here first. I'll highlight. There's the asteroid's name. Usually it just has an, 1999 RQ-36. The date says when it was spotted. Then it's given a 2-letter and number designation. If it's any object of importance, it'll get a name and a much larger number. And that's mainly due to research purposes. Any asteroid that's going to threaten the Earth usually gets itself a name. Although strangely, DA 1950 or 1950 DA has never gotten a name. It's a little strange on that one, but we've known about that one for a long, long time. Okay, so you've got the object designation, the name. The next is the year range, and it shows the number of years that it is a potential threat. Potential impacts. Now, this is why Bennu here is a risk. It's not that Bennu itself is a gigantic risk. It's that there are 157 potential times that it could hit the Earth in the next 100 years, okay? None of them are very high in the probability, but it's like you're rolling the dice 157 times. Meanwhile, DA 1950 DA here, 1. It's only going. It has one potential impact, and that is in 2000. It's in 2880, so about 800 years, a little more than 800 years from now. Okay, or this one here that's just been found. It was found today, 2023 AJ1. And the only year that it's got a potential risk is in 2096, and it's got 3 potential impacts. Now, we'll get into that a little bit more later. This is math, okay? Probability of impact is math. We'll get into that later. These here, V, H, unless you're a scientist, you really don't need to know that. Next is estimated diameter. That's extremely important because, well, RQ or Bennu is almost 500 meters. 1950 DA is 1.3 kilometers, almost a mile. That's dangerous. AJ here is 290 meters. And again, that's really nothing to lose sleep over, and I'll get into that in a minute. Now, what really pisses me off is when I see articles that'll mention something like, let's see one that's got a real high Palermo. Oh, well, never mind. Let's see. Here, this one's got a 1 in 370 chance of hitting Earth, okay? and it's called SG 2000 SG 344, right? It's 37 meters. Okay, that is really small. The odds of it causing any problem to anybody is so meaningless that it's registered in the blue category. Do you see how it's blue? Anything blue is pretty much, don't even think about it. It's not even worth thinking about. It's harmless. The odds of it hurting anyone are so ridiculous that it's, like I said, they rate it in blue. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Palermo and Torino. Now, the Torino scale was created for the public. And the way that the Torino scale is rated, you notice how they're all zeros? Now, really, Bennu and DA should have a rating next to them. They removed them because the press kept making stupid noise about them. The way that the Torino scale works, let's see if I can find the tab that shows it. I should have had this prepared. Let's see. No, this doesn't have anything about the Torino scale. Basically, the Torino scale works on a 1 through 10 score. And that 1 through 10, why it's important is a 1 would be, okay, this might be a problem. We're keeping an eye on it. 2 is, okay, we're going to really have to study this. This might be a risk. And as it gets higher and higher, a 10 is, this will hit the Earth. There's never been a 10. I think the highest it's ever gotten. Let me wiki this to make sure. Because I'll often see, well, it's a 1 on the Torino scale. So fucking what? Torino, okay. And it's called that because it was developed at a conference in Torino, Italy. Here we go. A 1 on the Torino scale says a routine discovery which will pass near the Earth and is predicted to possess no unusual level of danger. Current calculations show that it is extremely unlikely for public concern, and more data is needed. 2 means, okay, we should study it a bit more. It becomes yellow. And let's see, I'll share the screen just for a minute. As you can see, they don't get really worried. You see, it's normal. Meriting attention by astronomers is yellow. Once you get into the 5 through 7 range, it's okay, we're worried. 8 through 10 is certain collision. And again, I don't think any's ever gone beyond a 3, or maybe it's a 2, just to give you a sense. Now, they use the scale, and it was mainly intended for the public, but they don't use it much anymore because the public exaggerated the shit out of it. And the news used it as just another way to scare the shit out of people. The Palermo scale is a bit more complicated. That's scientific. And the way that the Palermo scale works is that it starts with the idea that there's an average rating for every asteroid. That, let's see, -2 is when, yeah, exactly. -2 is when it starts to become, okay, well, we should pay attention to this. -1 is, all right, this is important. And then it starts going up to 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 as far as risk. And the way that this differs from the Torino scale is that the Palermo scale isn't just based on impact risk. It's based on, well, how far in the future is it? So let's go back to this. 1950 DA is rated a 2.05 Palermo, okay? Which says that is an average risk. for the period of time. And it's so far in the future, it doesn't have a higher rating. Now, if this one was like this year, you can bet the Torino would be way, way higher. The odds of this one hitting is 1 in 34,000. The odds of Bennu hitting is 1 in 1,800. But yet it still only has a negative 1.59 for a Torino or a Palermo. And the reason being is its size. And again, how far in the future it is. I hope I've made that clear. I hope that makes sense. Maybe not. Maybe I just confused you more. When you go into the individual entries, this is where it gets interesting. But again, bunch of science stuff, as you can see. Not really worth mentioning. This is the important chart, okay? Now, you go over to the Palermo scale, and you click it till you get the absolute, well, technically highest, but you say we've got ones that are rated here at a negative 527. The odds of it hitting are 1 in 10 million. It's a negative 527. Now we go up to negative 1.59. That is a 1 in 2,700 odds of impact. Next, pay attention to the date. That is in 2182. Nothing to worry about. In fact, even though these numbers look scary, and by Vegas odds, yeah, that's kind of scary, chances are it's going to miss. 1 in 2,700. So whenever you hear any of these fear stories, the first thing I would suggest you do is go on over to JPL. First, see if it's even rated in the top 3, okay? Then you can click on it and get the specific date and the specific amount. Well, let's get one with a lot of passes. Let's go back to Bennu. You get the, you find out what date is the actual risky date. Here, 2182. If you click here, what's the soonest? It's still distant future. But this should answer your questions. You just need to know how to read it. Now let's talk about damage, because that's the thing we're always talking about. I was talking about estimated diameter, size, right? Now we've got one here. Bennu is almost 500 meters, whereas 1950 DA is almost a mile. It's 1.3 kilometers. 1.3 kilometers is very, very bad. It won't end civilization, but it'll fuck everything up and change the climate and maybe trigger an ice age, or at least a little ice age. It'll also do a fuck ton of damage, probably a continental size damage. The nice thing is most of the asteroids that size have been found and are not rated a risk in the next 100 years or even the next 200 years. Well, I've got 19 of you listening, so you're not bored. Torino scale is rated. How much does Clint Eastwood want this asteroid off his lawn? Exactly. So again, I repeat, the first thing to do is when you hear about one of these articles, the first thing to do is go over to JPL and see if it's even fucking listed. Half the time it isn't even listed because it isn't a risk. Okay? Is the Apophis asteroid shaped like a pyramid? No, actually, Apophis is called that because, okay, now Neil deGrasse Tyson will go on and on about it's named after the Egyptian god of death because it's such a risk to Earth. Not true. It's called that because the college students who found it are nerds and they liked Stargate, SG-1. I shit you not. It's named after the Stargate villain. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions yet, so I guess I'm doing a good job. Yeah, no questions. I'm a little surprised. Write a story about a sentient asteroid that threatens Earth by sending nasty emails and breathing heavily into the phone. You know what's funny about that bar one is for iRoboner, um, it wrote an asteroid into the story, and the AI was so stupid it started giving the asteroid dialogue. So maybe I can do that for you. So let's talk about size. You're just listening to you. Okay, so let's talk about size, because we know the darker ones are bigger. sorry. I had to. That horribly immature of me, I know, but I had to. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Hopefully, you can see this clearly. So yeah, size. Just to give sense. The Tunguska event, which happened, well, God, I should have taken notes. The Tunguska event occurred in Russia. That was where an asteroid exploded over Siberia in 1908. And it's estimated that that was a 65-meter asteroid. And it didn't even touch the ground because it burnt up in the atmosphere. Now, the airburst did destroy 830 square miles of forest, but there's a reason for that. It's not as impressive as it sounds. It came in at an angle, so its sonic boom left a trail behind it. That wasn't the impact that caused it. It was it actually kind of bore a trail straight through the forest and then blew up. By comparison, the Chelyabinsk meteor that happened, oh God, was that in, let's get a date for that one too. The Chelyabinsk meteor event that happened in 2013, which made huge news, was 20 meters, they think. It exploded in the air, it shattered a bunch of windows, shook some buildings. So, yeah. Now, let's talk about Apophis, the one that Neil deGrasse Tyson likes to talk about all the time. That one is 370 meters. So we'll just round up and say 400 meters roughly. If it were to actually hit Earth, one that size would create roughly a 5-kilometer crater, which is 17,000 feet, and would cause damage to thousands of square miles, but would not have any lasting global effect. The damage essentially would be regional. And to put that in perspective, remember only 1% of the Earth is populated. The rest of the Earth is dirt and water, and 70% of that is water. So the most likely chance is it'll hit water and create a tsunami. I'm not saying that would be nice, but it would be a tsunami, and it would not be the damage we see in movies, okay? But yeah, it wouldn't affect the climate. And what else do I say? It would cause a big crater, probably destroy probably a region about the size of a small state at worst. Okay, at worst. Maybe the equivalent of a very, very bad volcanic eruption. If we were to go down to a bit of a smaller size, right here, we got AJ1 2023. It's 300 meters, okay? An asteroid of that size, there's a lot of factors that go into what cause the damage. Part of it is the speed. How fast is it coming in and what is it made of? that can have a great deal of effect on the damage. If it's just a bunch of dust or ice, it may not be all that bad. If it's pure iron or nickel, you'd have a bad time. The crater in Arizona here, which is pretty impressive, that one was the size of, I think, a Volkswagen Bug and was pure nickel, just to give you a sense of damage. Now, if an asteroid is in the 2 to 300 range, oh, nope, sorry, misread that. Oh, well, I lost my spot. Basically, the 2 to 300 meter range, again, we're looking at probably regional damage. Maybe if it hit a city, it would be very bad for the city and probably all the communities surrounding that city. Odds are it would hit out in the ocean somewhere and cause probably a nasty tsunami. Thoroughly survivable, nothing to lose sleep over. Again, the odds of one of these things landing in a populated area is very, very small. Now, Bennu, here, which is almost 500 meters. That I won't shit you. That isn't great. That would be bad. Is it survivable? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely survivable. But again, you're not really going to see the Hollywood-style damage unless it were to have an airburst over a city. And the odds of that are really, really unlikely. What you would be looking at is probably a fireball that's 20 kilometers in size, roaring down. That would heat up the atmosphere. It would be hot for several days to come in that area and would have a concussive blast of about 200 kilometers. That's a lot. But again, still wouldn't kill off the human race, would probably land in the ocean, and probably would not even affect the weather long term. You might have some minor weather effects. So it isn't until you start getting past the 500 meter range that you've really got to start thinking, well, that might not be too good. And once you hit the 1 kilometer range is when, okay, yeah, that's time to worry. The good news is one, humanity would still survive even a kilometer-wide asteroid. The science programs won't tell you that, but we would still survive it. It just would be very, very hard. By comparison, the one that wiped out the dinosaurs was 15 kilometers, not 1. And life still survived. And that probably broke into 3 pieces and landed in 3 different parts of the globe. And that's what wiped out the dinosaurs. Just to give you scale. And apparently to completely make the Earth thoroughly uninhabitable forever, it would have to be 60 miles in size. To give you, again, a sense of scale. So yes, a 1 kilometer asteroid would be a very bad thing. It would cause an ice age. It would probably destroy a continent, or at least half a continent. And I don't mean destroy as in turn it all into molten lava. I mean, it would be a big crater. The concussive blast would flatten cities. And then miles and miles away, you'd have dust and debris falling down from the sky. That kind of damage. Now the good news. All the mile-sized or all the kilometer-sized asteroids, we probably know where they all are, and none of them are a risk for the next 100 years at least, if not 2. SkySearch has done such an excellent job. We've been looking since the late 90s, I believe. Since the mid to late 90s, we've been scanning the sky, and we've got 90% of the sky mapped out. The first thing they did was find everything that was a kilometer or bigger. And we know for the next 100 years, we're fine. There's nothing to worry about in that regard, unless that small 10% there's a black spot in this that we didn't notice. And there's reasons for that. There's a blind spot. I could get into the science, but it has to do with the position of the sun and where our various radio telescopes are. They would like to put a satellite on the opposite side of the sun to be able to see our blind side and see if there's anything out there. But I said, other than Trump, no one wants to give money to this. So the odds of them finding a kilometer-sized asteroid in the next 100 that will hurt us the next 100 years is very well 10%. Actually, that's not true. I got that wrong. Apparently, in science, you will never have a 100% certainty because you've always got to factor in a 2 to 5% margin of error. So I think the best you can ever get is a 95% assurance. And as I said, we've got 90% of the sky tracked, and we've found probably almost all of the kilometer-sized or bigger asteroids. And we're fine for the next century or so, if not longer. As you can see, the only ones they're worried about are these three. And the real scary one isn't until 800 years from now. And the next one isn't until about, and then after that, what do you got, 200 years from now? And this one's almost 100 years from now. And those are survivable. Gee, I think I actually answered all the questions or answered all the things I wanted to explain. But yeah, anytime you hear them talk about giant asteroid and it's less than a kilometer, if they start talking in meters instead, forget it. Ignore it. It's probably not an issue. And if you're losing sleep over it, go to JPL, the link's already in the chat, and take a look. I mean, it is amazing how many times you'll hear about one of these things and it's not even really a risk. The risk is so fucking negligible, it's not listed. So yeah, there's a term scientists like to use, which is there is a was it less than zero or more than zero chance that this could hit, which means the number is so low we're not even going to count it. But we can't say 100 with 100% certainty is basically how it works. And the press will often hype those to all hell when the true risk is like, 1 in 500 million. Okay. Let's see if there's any more. Going through here. I hope I'm dead when that ice age happens or become immortal from the meteorite's radiation. They don't spit out radiation unless it's actual radioactive material. And keep in mind, it may not happen. Really, think about it. 100 years ago, the most advanced technology were horse and buggies in terms of transportation. We've got Elon Musk is sending civilian rockets into space on a weekly basis. That was 100 years. If we don't have our shit together in another 100 years, seriously, do we really deserve? Maybe we deserve to get whacked. Have you thought about that? So really, that's the other thing is the technological curve. I mean, where will we be in 100 years? What are we going to be capable of in 100 years? The only closeness warnings I want to hear is that fucking Mongo, and we're going to going to fucking die. Destroyed 830 miles squared of forest, square miles of forest, and Russia didn't even bother to check up until 1912. Yeah, that was because it was so damn remote to get to. And on the note of, we might possibly be barreling into an ice age anyways in the next 5,000 years. Again, I repeat, where will humanity be in the next 5,000 years? Seriously, it's not really worth thinking about. I mean, think of what either we're going to be complete fuck ups by then, or we will be able to handle that kind of thing. Chuck Tingle. Ishi, there was no asteroid over Russia. That was my great uncle Smirnov coming back from Germany and having a bad German beer and sauerkraut. I believe you. Yeah, also, have you noticed Russia just seems to have the worst luck with meteors? You almost wonder if there's something about that area of the Earth that just increases the odds of asteroids falling into it. So how far along are we from having anti-meteor tuned AA cannons like Stonehenge? That was a cool idea for Ace Combat. I don't know how practical that would be, but the concept for the game was kind of cool. He's talking about Ace Combat. Uh, really, right now, the asteroid deflection strategies are very interesting, and could be as simple as we send a couple people up there and stick an atomic engine on it, which would be powered by a few nukes, and just push it out of the way. The further it is in the future, the less you have to nudge it for it to miss. And I could get into why, but I don't think I need to explain. It's just, if it's a risk in 800 years, if you were just to nudge it just a little bit over the year, the indiscrepancy would grow so great that it would be no risk after a while. Another deflection strategy is to actually make a ship of some sort with a big heavy weight on it. Now, I know this sounds nutty, but a spacecraft that has a big weighty object on it that has enough gravitational pull that it can just sit next to the asteroid and slowly drag it out of orbit to somewhere else using nothing but gravity. If it's one like 1950 DA, you can literally paint it reflective colors, and the excess sunlight hitting it will be enough over time to actually change its orbit. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true. It works on the same principle as a solar sail, if you've ever heard of that, where you could actually travel through space with nothing more than a giant sail on your craft. But the idea of just like blow it up is turning out to be less and less effective than we thought. Really, what you would want to do is not blow the meteor up itself, but rather push it off to the side or even detonate a nuke right next to it to push it in a different direction. Another neat idea would be to send up bots, just self-replicating bots up onto the asteroid. And by the way, this is not far-fetched. We could probably do this now if there were the funding. And what it would do is the bots would land, build a little mass driver cannon, essentially a big slingshot, and it would just start mining chunks of the asteroid and shooting the rocks off out into space, and like termites, chew it down till it's nothing. Essentially, yeah, like termites, essentially. They would chew it up and spit it out into space until it was just a bunch of pebbles, turning it into gravel. If Space Force become Space Force is a thing, actually. It's just that's gotten very politicized. Do you think wars will be waged in outer space instead of Earth? Unfortunately, yeah, I do. Although it's going to be satellites. I think if there is any big conflict in the future, there's going to be a lot of whose satellites can shoot down whose satellites, who can put more satellites back up into orbit. Um, the the orbit the orbits around the Earth may become very, very messy with debris for a couple decades if we go to war up there. But it's mostly going to be about shooting down each other's satellites. Thanks, Ishi. Haven't thought about asteroid impacts after you explained it. Hope this set others at ease. I hope so too. I mean, it's just, again, there's so many goddamn black pills, and because of that green comet that's going to pass by the Earth, I've been seeing some fear stories going on, and I have been, fuck it. It's a beautiful verse. I'll read it anyways. I've been seeing this said quite a bit. And a great star burning like a torch fell from the heavens and landed on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star was Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter like wormwood oil, and many people died from the bitter waters. Because of that green comet, yes, I've been seeing people post that. We don't need any black pills, and no, it's not the same thing. Beautifully written verse, as I said, but you want the facts, just go over to JPL and see if it's even on the chart. They had cars in 1920. Oh shit, you're right. I'm showing my age. You're right. I was thinking 1900. Fuck me. Oh, okay. 120 years ago, the most advanced thing were horse and buggy, okay? You're right. God, I'm losing track of time. I'm getting old. I'm going to die. I'm getting so old that I'm still thinking like it's the 90s. I don't know. I have noticed that as I get older, that your head kind of gets stuck in one era. And my headspace, personality-wise, I think is permanently going to be locked in the 90s and the aughts. But you're right. Yeah, it's 1923. We had cars and airplanes by that point. You're right. By the way, I was repeating an argument made by Michael Crichton in the year 2000 over the environment, that the most advanced thing we had were horse and buggies about 100 years ago. But he wrote that book in 2000. It's been 20 years ago. Fuck, I'm getting old. I'm going to die. That really shouldn't be that funny. Probably isn't. Let's see. Going through here. If alchemy can produce gold and other natural resources, it obviously is able to create unlimited amounts of gunpowder and lead. With that knowledge, a cowboy could survive a fantasy world. That's a great concept. Oh, about why so many of them hit Russia? Depends on the Earth's tilt and the seasons. I bet that's exactly it. Let's see. Had this idea of meteors being the basis of new resources, but also the cause of the fall of kingdoms and sovereign colonies had to be built out of the last fallout. Well, you know, Elon Musk is trying to figure out a way to mine asteroids. Quite a few corporations are. Okay. So Superman arguably could just push the asteroid, knock a meteor off course? Yes. Yes, that is absolutely right. Superman could just fly out there, nudge it probably about 100 feet or 100 meters, and we'd be fine. I mean, unless it's an imminent risk, that wouldn't make a difference. Then he'd have to kind of push it probably several, I don't know, in it probably about 10, 20 kilometers. But he's Superman. He can do that. Superman could have revolutionized the space industry and brought humanity into the stars single-handedly, and yet he didn't. You'd almost think he wants us to be children. In 2005 is the new 18 years old Eep. I don't know. It's weird aging. It is. It's very weird aging. I think at some point you just stop thinking about it. Now, granted, I'm in pretty good health, so maybe that's why I don't think about it much. But yeah, I don't know. As 50 looks closer and closer, it just doesn't seem that old to me anymore. Look it up. Cars were first introduced in 1885. Well, fuck, shows what I know. Was that the electric one? Do you want to show off Dr. Meyer? Okay, I kind of do, but Kat doesn't want me to show anymore until we have some proof of concept pages. So I don't want to piss off Kat. She is the editor. So I don't know. Well, hold on. Give me a second. Can you guys hold a second? Of course you can.
In 1946, an ultimate weapon was used to end the Second World War. It gave birth to a horrifying new age. This is the story of the Kaiju Age. Follow the journey of one journalist as he teams up with a retired CIA operative to uncover the truth about the monsters and the events that will ultimately culminate in a Third World War, the Great Kaiju War. See Tokyo's destruction. Witness the aerial battle of Modra and Razorbeak over New York. Explore the formation of the Kaiju Science Task Force and discover its secret mission, and witness the utter chaos of the Cuban monster crisis when two beasts lay waste to an entire nation. World War Kaiju is both a satire of the Cold War paranoia and a love letter to the kaiju genre.
Okay, you've seen that ad enough. That's available on Amazon now. Go buy it. Sorry, JC. The editor has spoken. She says until we have some pages, she doesn't want us flashing off just character concepts. That she'd like to be able to show off some actual pages first to show that it's really going to happen. Eloise, I heard Jupiter's the reason why Earth doesn't get pelted with asteroids. Makes me wonder why the ancients didn't worship it instead of Saturn. Yes and no. Yeah, Jupiter does act as a magnet and pulls a lot of the big ones into its orbit. Also, the moon seems to be a bit of a shield for us as well. Here's the thing. Jupiter and Saturn, but especially Jupiter, is a mixed blessing because Jupiter may pull a lot of asteroids in to keep them from hitting us. It also is the gravitational object that keeps slingshotting objects out of the Oort belt into our solar system. So it both defends us, but it also causes the asteroids to fly into our solar system. So it does both. As it circles the sun, it'll pull on asteroids in the Oort belt and cause them to kind of fly through the solar system on long orbits. It's also why Jupiter has so many moons and why so many of them, it just keeps pulling everything in. Oh God. So I'm running out of steam here, but I'm seeing Anime Acid Trip's idea for a gunslinger cowboy alchemist's idea. That would be such an awesome setting for like a weird Western fantasy where, you know, you've got the traditional fantasy story, but it's the Wild West, and you've got alchemists making, you know, steel and gunpowder. Yeah. Or how about bullets with curses on them? Grabs all attention, keeps things from hitting Ben Shapiro. Oh, God. So basically, Jupiter acts like Abby Shapiro's Kaiser, Kaiser, Kazar milkers. I think that's it. Yeah. What does Saturn do? It's similar. It also pulls objects in. It also pulls objects into its orbit, but will slingshot things from the Oort belt into our solar system. One of the benefits, at least since we are in the middle of our star's lifespan, we're like dead set in the middle. Fortunately, the really nasty shit has already fallen into the sun or gotten into an orbit or hit a planet. That's the good news. The earlier you go into the solar system's formation, the worse the asteroids were. So being that we're the midpoint, a lot of the really scary shit, like the moon, the moon was actually an object that rammed into the Earth. Most of those have been ruled out by now. They're gone. They've already shot their wad, so to speak. Jove just wants to show off his juggling routine. Big Lummox has more enthusiasm. Well, no. He wants to show off the power of his cock. Jupiter's moons are all named after his many wives and affairs. All right, so I gave an educational lesson today. Hopefully some of you will rest easier now next time you see a stupid scare story in the press. Remember, if they're talking in meters, it's nothing to worry about, for the most part. And if you want to be sure, just go to JPL's, you type in JPL Neo Risk on Google. It'll take you right to that site I was showing you. You guys want to talk about anything else before I call it a night? What does Saturn do? It looks cool in a telescope. What's up, Catherine? It's been a while. We need to do a ladies' night again with Shanae. Shanae's got to get in the house with the girls. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Yeah, quick. Throw me a topic, or I'll call it an evening. So you did read Steel Ball Run. Never heard of that one. You know, I must ask, just out of curiosity, since I know a bunch of you have purchased Richard Steele's latest book, quickly in the chat. Honestly, is it entertaining? How entertaining did you find it? Steel Ball Run. I'm taking a look at that right now. I have no idea what this is other than a manga. Kat needs to get into contact with Sour Grape VA for a ladies' night. I wonder who that is. So Shanae will give you all a free appointment, apparently, ladies. He'll do your hair and get your nails. What is it? Get your nail. I can't do it. Get your hair did and your nails done. Is that how it goes? Fuck, I don't know. ROBOMANCER managed to pull a few real laughs for me, which puts it at highly objective lol meter measures of rather. Again, I'll ask Ironcast, do you actually write stories? Or is that review you wrote just a thing you did for fun? Because that was really well written. Or is this sort of like a thing like you're working on your masterpiece and you don't want to say anything till it's done? Steel Ball runs the first arc from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reboot. Oh, okay. I enjoyed it. It's funny seeing what early AI tries to write. Something using AI site has been corrupted by shut writers. Yeah, well, the thing is like I said, it's like you co-write it with the AI, where some of the programs do all the writing. This you guide it, and the thing was constantly guiding it away from porn made it more and more confused. I should probably do another one on air. I mean, when we did the live story, which will appear in iRoboner, the Bigfoot love story, where we did that live on air with the listeners commenting on what should happen next, that resulted in some funny ass shit, especially Napoleon living in a trailer park. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a night. I could. Oh, wait. I'm working on a semi-hard sci-fi anthology novel that I keep roughing out stories from, posting on my lame little blog, then not redrafting them into a more readable form because I'm a lazy bitch. Do you want to post your link? That fantasy western idea reminds me of an idea I had for Celtic, Arthurian, Saxon myth in the Wild West. There was a Arthurian legend done as a weird western back in the aughts, and the art was beautiful, but I think they kind of missed the concept. The fated gun, 6-gun Excalibur, it didn't work very well. Well, I don't think Ironcast is going to be posting his link to his blog. So, how are your projects going? The Reiko book. My editors told me I'm not allowed to talk about Reiko till I have pages to show you. I'm being serious. So, I can't really comment on that. As I said, I'm restarting. I'm now. I took a 2-month break. I should have taken only a month, but I was so fucking depressed over the holidays. I'm finally returning to Boobs of Steel to finish the damn thing off. I'm writing at rapid speed the Siege Engine story. That's kind of my escape. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. The thing is the thing with the Siege Engine story is it's like it won't stop going. It just keeps going and going and going. It's like one of those stories. It won't shut up. And I'm planning on releasing those in installments. So hopefully once I have 3 polished chapters, I'll have that go up ASAP. I've got one other thing in the works, but I don't want to say anything about it till, again, I've got something to put up. But, keep your fingers crossed. I may have a bulk of material available very soon. Good talking to you all, and have a good evening.